Hey friends, it's Pam here, and I'm outside today. It's a beautiful spring day here in Alberta, and the sun is really bright. So I thought I would come out here and talk about overhelping, over responsibility, over functioning, whatever you want to call it. And it's pretty loud out here. The birds are singing. There's people driving by on the road. I live close to the highway. So there's any number of things that you might hear. So we'll see how this turns out. You'll give it a shot. All right, well, today is Monday, April 13th, and this is number 7 in the series I've been doing on overhelping, or how I've recognized that I'm over responsible. And another word that I think therapists and other people use, mainly in the psychology world, is over functioning. It's like when you're just overdoing it, right? You're functioning great, but when you take it overboard, it becomes too much. And so I've titled this one, How to Recognize When You're Being Over-Responsible. So this is actually a really hard one for me to do because it involves a story. Yes, another hard story. This one is a hard story about myself and how I didn't recognize my own problems with overdoing it, and how I tried to help 2 young guys, and I stepped in to try and help them to fix their problems, to find them a place to live. And all of this I thought was my role somehow. And it resulted in really hard things for me, for my family. And so there's these 2 guys that reached out and said, they have to get out of their apartment. They're going to get kicked out. And when I look back at it, I see all of these phrases, all of these really manipulative phrases for what they are. But at the time, I just took everything like at face value. I just thought, okay, if they say they're going to get kicked out, then they're going to be out in the street. So I set about to try and find them a place to live, jobs. My husband and I helped them move, and they lived a good hour away from where we were. I went, oh man, talk about the extra mile. I went like 1,000 miles extra. I bought them groceries. We drove the one guy that got a job to work at like 5:45 in the morning. We took turns. My poor husband had to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to do this. And bought them groceries, things to get their house started, set them up with the renter, and vouched for them. Well, there's a lot more I could say about that story, but suffice to say, I was overdoing it. I was overhelping. And I went months and months with not seeing the problem, even though there were glaring red flags and signs that now I look back and go, oh, yes, that's what was going on. So, signs that it is too much, that you're overhelping, being too responsible for the lives and well-being of others, even if they really need help. That's the hard part. When people really need help and you think, well, I can do this, but most of the time it's not actually our job. So let's get into it. The first thing is no longer being honest about everything. If you start to hide things, that's a big red flag. If you're not being totally honest with the loved ones in your life about where you were, or how much you're spending and what you're doing, that is a big sign that, if you're hiding messages on your phone, I don't remember doing that, but I probably did, right? And just kind of hoping that you'll keep flying under the radar, that's a sign. Like, how can it be a good thing if you're having to hide a bunch of stuff? So no accountability is basically what that is, right? It's refusing accountability, it's starting to hide things. Another sign is letting down those that you are responsible for. So family members or friends, groups, things that you are responsible for start to suffer because you're so busy running around helping these other people. Being away when I should have been home. So there were a few times when I was away from home, and my kids were older, and so it wasn't a big deal, I didn't think, but it was a big deal. Especially one time when a couple of my son's friends were bullying him basically, and backed him into a corner, and I should have been home. I could have been home during that time and put a stop to it. But where was I? I was running around, I think, teaching one of these guys how to drive, or taking them to an appointment or something like that. I drove them all over the place. And I should have been at home taking care of my own business, right? Okay. You can hear how frustrating this is for me to realize and think about now. So, not following through on other commitments as well. So I had a Bible study at this time, and I remember this one time, one of the women pulled up to my house, and I thought the study was canceled because I hadn't heard back from anyone, but she had just assumed it was going on. So she shows up, and there's these two guys smoking cigarettes on my front porch, and she texts me kind of, do you know that there's two guys smoking on your front porch, and are we having the study today? And I was like, oh no, the study's canceled, and yeah, those are my friends, and we're helping them out, it's all good. And just kind of blew her off. And wow, what a total different person I was from what I wanted to be, and who I said I was. And that leads me to the next thing. Feeling torn all the time. So there's this kind of pull where you're supposed to be doing this thing, but something else is more important. And so for me, helping these guys, these teenagers, really young men by this point, I think they were 18 and 19, but I can't quite remember. Helping them became like all consuming, and so I felt torn. So for example, another story that happened is I was a worship leader at church, and this one night the one guy said he would come to church, and I'd been asking him to come to church over and over again for a few years now. So this was such a huge deal. It was such an answer to prayer, right? But I had to pick him up an hour away at like 1:30 in the morning. So long story short, I end up getting to bed like maybe 3:30 in the morning, when I had to be up and at the church for practice by like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and lead worship for a fairly large church. So I justified it by like, well, God is in it. God is obviously answering my prayers, and he will give me the strength to lead worship well. And when I think back, I don't know, how could I have really done a good job with 4 hours of sleep? And I don't know. So what I'm trying to get to is kind of forgetting about or diminishing other commitments because you're so focused on helping. You're so focused on something that you're being over responsible for. And that leads to the next sign, and it's too much feeling. So you've kind of probably picked up on that as I'm talking, that there's this heady sense of joy or almost euphoria, kind of like a manic feeling almost. I mean, I don't know what that's like, but when I've heard it described, this obsessive kind of um, euphoria about what you're doing. And I was just obsessed with making sure these guys were okay, sort of anticipating what they might need. And I thought that all of that overhelping was somehow going to lead them to God. That was my rationale. And the crazy and kind of strange thing is that it kind of did. I don't know about the one guy, but one of them made a profession of faith in Jesus. And so it gets really confusing, because if you look at it from the outside, you might think, well, it was a struggle, but you did all the right things, and but no, I think that was God's grace in using me in spite of what I was doing, not because of what I was doing. And there's a big distinction there. So let's sum up. Hiding money, hiding time that you're spending, things like that. Forgetting responsibilities that you have because you're too focused on making sure someone else is okay or helping someone else. Splitting, so this kind of living almost like two different people, where there's the regular you and then there's this over responsible you, and it kind of starts to split because they're not really compatible, right? You can't keep living your normal life while you're overextended, helping in all of these different ways in an already busy life. Something's going to have to give. And for me, it started to feel like my sanity, right? My sense of who I was. And then obsessing, right? Your days are consumed with how that person is doing. You could also call that extreme codependency. So I was only okay if they were okay, right? If things were going well with the helping, if they were succeeding at the job, or if they were able to maintain the house and the rent and all of this stuff. I couldn't see myself clearly, and that's one of the main reasons why I got caught in this trap as a woman in my 40s. Why was I so silly, really? And I think one thing was not being able to see myself clearly. Yes, due to reasons. I think I could unpack all of the family dynamics and the past emotional neglect, things like that led me to be this way. But I think at some point that's just an excuse. I couldn't see myself clearly, and I thought that God was in it. Listen to the birds. They're really going for it. I thought I was God's special helper, and He had assigned me to this role, and I was going to do the best job that I could. And it's sometimes really disconcerting. It's sometimes really hard to think about how deceived I was, even though I should have known better. So recognize those signs. If you're only happy if the people you are trying to help are happy, if you're spending more money or time than you should, if you're staying away from accountability, avoiding questions from those who love you, and if you're crossing boundaries, if you're getting signals that you're crossing the boundaries of others, or you're allowing other people to cross your boundaries, that's a red flag that you might be over responsible or people pleasing, whatever we want to call it. There's so much more to this topic, and if you're struggling with realizing that you have a pattern of doing this, I would encourage you to find someone you can talk to. Find someone that's a safe person that you can say, look, I feel like I'm doing this. Do you see this in me? And if you don't have that kind of person in your life, reach out to a trained therapist and tell them what's going on. See if you can get some insight. Most people who overhelp do this because of some deep wounds that create the climate for over responsibility. And I've referred to that a little bit in the past, where when I look back at my life, I think I was very much validated for giving and sort of ignored when I had a need. And so I just learned that that was the way to survive. So it's not an excuse. Like I said, I should have known better. Let's stop being over responsible. I'm committed to trying everything I can to learn from this and grow and stop doing it. I was thinking of talking about how to tell someone that they are overdoing it. So kind of from the other side, because I have people in my life as well that I recognize are doing this. So how would I tell them? But I don't think I'm quite there yet. I think I need another week of talking about how to stop being so responsible, or steps to being less responsible. And yeah, remember, it's one thing to recognize the signs, and that's great, but we actually have to stop and change our behavior, and that's where the rubber really meets the road, doesn't it? Well, thank you for coming along on my little porch talk. I'm going to see if any of this is salvageable because of all the noise out here. And yeah, let's commit. Let's commit to stopping this over responsibility, over functioning habit, if that's something you're doing, and stay in our lane. Okay, I'll talk to you again really soon. Bye.